What if I told you you could sell your home 73% faster than your neighbors and net 23% more money for it? These are not made up numbers. These are real statistics from actual market research, and I'm going to show you how you can take advantage of this research if you're selling your home. I'm talking about home staging, and the numbers behind it are absolutely mind-blowing. If you've been thinking of selling your home, or maybe you're currently struggling to get it sold, this video could be a game changer for you. Let me start by sharing some statistics that absolutely shocked me when I read them. The average unstaged home sits on the market for 184 days. That's 6 months of mortgage payments, stress, and uncertainty. But here's where it gets interesting. Homes that are properly staged sell on average in just 23 days. That is not a typo, 23 days. But the speed of the sale, it's not even the most exciting part. According to the data, 85% of homes that are staged actually tend to sell on average for 5 to 23% above their listed price. If you're selling a $300,000 home, proper staging could add anywhere from $15,000 to $69,000 in value. That's like finding a year's worth of salary hidden in your couch cushions. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is often one of the biggest obstacles that we face as agents when we suggest staging, is from a seller's perspective, if I'm going to gain upwards of $15,000 to maybe even $60,000, what is it going to cost me to bring in a professional stager? Let's talk about the real costs and real returns of home staging, because this is often where people are pleasantly surprised. Professional staging usually costs several $1,000s. They typically will run it based on a percentage of the purchase price of the home. So whatever the home sells for, you can probably factor in 0.75 to 1% of the cost. Every stager is different, every area is different, but that's a good general rule of thumb. And while that can be a lot of money, what sellers are often seeing is that they're making 8 to 10 times that initial staging investment on the back end when they sell their home. So let me break that down. If you spend on average $2,000 to get your home staged, you might end up pocketing an additional $16,000 to $20,000 at the end of the day. That's a bet I'm going to make all day long. And here's a pro tip for those of you who maybe don't have that staging budget. I know that there are times where you have to sell under duress and there's not even an extra $500, let alone several thousand. You can look into virtual staging. Now, I know those of you who do professional staging are gonna wanna wring my neck, and I get it. When you look online at photos and see a gorgeous virtually staged house and then you show up in person, it's a letdown. It is not as good as the real thing. But I would argue if you have a choice of doing nothing or virtually staging some photos, it can be a much more cost-effective way to at least help people, future buyers, get a concept of the space, but just know you are not gonna see anywhere near the return on investment that you will if you actually do the real deal staging. Here's something fascinating that a lot of sellers don't realize. When they were asked, 82% of agents said that a staged property made it easier for their buyers to visualize a property as their future home. Why this is critical is because buying is an emotional decision. Yes, we're talking about mortgage rates and prices and affordability, but ultimately, when someone walks into a house and finds the one, they're not worried about property taxes and flood zones and square footage. Those do play a factor, but when I'm showing houses and I know my client has found the house, it's because they're looking at where they're gonna cook their Thanksgiving meals. They're talking about the backyard where their pets or kids are gonna play or where family barbecues are gonna happen. They're looking at the living room where holidays and gatherings are gonna occur. And it's the creation of these emotional connections to a house that ultimately cause a house to sell faster and for more money. The next point I think is absolutely critical. 95% of home buyers start their search online. We know this. If you're gonna buy a house, what's the first thing you do? You whip out your cell phone or your tablet and you start searching online. As a seller, you get one chance at a first impression. You do not get another. And with as much competition as coming out there, what you are trying to do is stop the scroll. and you stop the scroll not only with gorgeous photos, but with gorgeous photos of a beautifully staged home that grab the attention of a buyer who might be looking at 15 other houses. That is something you can't replace. Think of it like this: when you're scrolling on social media, what gets you to stop and take a look? Something that's visually engaging, and it's exactly the same for homes. If something can get you to stop the scroll and take a look, the odds of you moving forward and getting more information on that house are much higher than if you just breeze past a vacant living room. Now, let me save you some time and money when it comes to staging. It doesn't necessarily mean that your house has to be completely staged from top to bottom within every nook and cranny, because not all rooms are created equal when it comes to buyer impact. And so based on the research that's been done, these are the areas where you should put your money, and these are the areas that are most important to stage. Number one, the living room. This is your star player. When asked, 47% of buyers said this is the most important room in the house to them. This is one of the areas of the house where people are probably going to spend the most time. So it needs to be comfortable and inviting and engaging when people are looking at those photos, and ultimately when they walk through the door. The kitchen actually comes in as a close second. What do they say when you have a gathering? Everybody congregates in the kitchen, and it's the heart of the home. Now, if your kitchen's not completely updated, it does not necessarily mean you have to do a huge remodel, but even simple things like clearing off countertops, updating hardware, or even creating an inviting breakfast nook can make a huge difference in the overall energy that your kitchen puts out. The primary bedroom is your third priority. 40% of buyers said the primary bedroom is one of their major decision makers. Think relaxing retreat, calming hotel vibes. You want a primary bedroom to feel like an oasis where someone can take a deep breath and let their day melt away. Interestingly enough, other spaces like home offices or guest bedrooms don't have quite as much impact on buyer decisions. So if you are working on a limited budget, focus on the big three: the living room, the kitchen, and the primary suite. If you can do a full home stage, I think it helps, but if you can't, those are the places to put your money. With those three zones in mind, there are some specific strategies that you need to be aware of. So whether you're ready to hire a full-time stager and hand them the keys to your house, or maybe you're working with a budget and want to do some DIY, these are the things that are going to be important. First and foremost, I tell this to every single seller I ever talk to: declutter. And declutter aggressively. I mean, get rid of 50% of your stuff. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to go in the garbage or to the donation pile, but it needs to be out of the house or very well hidden. And what this does is it makes your home appear larger, and it allows the buyer to focus on the property and not on your personal belongings, which can be a distraction and sometimes a deterrent. Second, you want to think neutral color palette. This does not mean to paint everything beige or gray, but it does mean that any super bold or polarizing colors should be addressed and possibly toned down to make it a more neutral palette for incoming buyers. Because super bold or polarizing colors, while one or two buyers may absolutely love it, you are going to have a vast majority of people who don't want to move into a house that requires a paint job. Third, add strategic pops of life with plants or natural elements. This creates a fresh, welcoming feeling that buyers really seem to respond to. Fourth, make sure every space has a clear purpose. If you've been using your dining room as a home office, when you're staging a house to sell, make sure it looks like a dining room, because you want buyers to be able to see what the space is intended to be used for. And if you are gonna go with the DIY version, here are some pitfalls that you should avoid. Over-decorating is a big one. A lot of times when people hear staging, they think adding, when in reality, taking away is often a huge part of staging. We want it to be more minimal, we want it to be simple, because we want people to see the house, not the things. The things are there to accentuate the property. Another common mistake is focusing solely on the inside and ignoring the exterior. Remember, we talked about first impressions. Well, it starts at the curb, because when people pull up, that's the first thing they're gonna see. So remember to work on curb appeal in addition to the inside. The third major mistake is keeping rooms completely empty. It sounds counterintuitive, but an empty room actually appears smaller than one that's properly staged. Even if you don't have the budget to do a full-out stage, in lieu of keeping maybe an office or guest room completely empty, it's helpful to do even a vignette, a chair, a desk, a plant, even just a few things, because that's going to allow buyers to see the size and functionality of a space. An empty room is a lot harder to figure out. You've heard the saying, you gotta pay to play. This is no different. There is a huge pushback on putting money up front to stage a home, but the proof is in the pudding. When you put out a house that's properly staged, beautifully decorated, warm, welcoming, and inviting, your houses sell faster, they sell for more money. Staging a home is not just about making it look pretty. It is about painting a picture for a buyer. And what has shown in the research is strategic, measurable results that not only net you a faster sale, but put more money in your pocket. Because you're not just selling a house. A house is made of brick or wood or stucco, but a home is where someone's gonna build a life. And that, my friends, is what you are really selling. And staging is going to help people see that. Most people I find are visual. If they can see it, they can envision it. It's a very rare buyer that can look at a space and see its potential without being shown. Some people can, but it's rare. Staging your home may seem extreme or expensive, but the research shows that it pays for itself over and over and over again. And what it can help you do is get that home sold faster and for more money, which if you're trying to sell a home to buy one, can be the ultimate game changer. If you're still not convinced, I've got a link below. Let's set up a discovery call, because that's what I'm here to do. Every situation's different. Maybe staging's for you, maybe it's not, but a conversation can provide so much clarity. And if you are in that bucket where you are buying and selling at the same time, I've created the ultimate guide for those of you who've got to wear both real estate hats at the same time. I'm Lindsey Johnson, your resource for all things real estate. See you next time.